I was waiting for you to invite me to the closed session meeting.
Oh,
Like, what's taking her so long?
I just thought you decided to leave.
Who's waiting? Okay. We reconvene to open session at 7:09 p.m. Public report of action taken. There was no action taken in closed. So that leads us to flag salute. So Director Smith, would you like to lead us on the flag salute, pretty please?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fine job. Thank you so much. Okay, that leads us to community input on agendized items. The public may comment on items listed on the agenda, including the consent calendar, presentation discussions, committee, and action items. Do we have any community input on agendized items?
No, there's no comment.
Okay, so that leads us to 6 items for consent. The items for consent are A, the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of the OPA Board of Directors meeting on September 16th, 2021. Personnel report. There are some separations there, hiring there, certificated and hiring classified, promotion changes classified. You can see items C, D, and E. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve consent items A through E.
I make a motion to approve consent to items A through E, and thank you to the Saddleback Valley Honor Society for your donation.
I have a comment about E, or a question about E before we approve, or do we approve and then discuss?
Let's get a second and then we'll talk.
Okay.
So may we have a second?
I second.
Okay. Director Agarwal. Okay, what, any discussion or questions?
So I just have one question about E. I didn't see if there's a length. I know that it's something that we're renewing, but I didn't see anything that donated a specified time on the contract. So I didn't know if I'm missing it or what. So I don't know what we're signing up for.
David?
I believe it's open-ended, and Ms. Hookeroff may be able to back me up on this. So it's open-ended on an as-needed basis. So we only pay for services that are actually requested by the school.
Yeah, so it would be for any translation services that we required for things like conferences or ELAC meetings or things like that. But it would just be paying as we need the services.
Okay, because I thought there was something on there that said that they could, increase it at any point. I just didn't know what that time frame is and when they could increase and when they can't. And I don't know what the language is around that. I just want to make sure that we're protected in that way.
We are, and we are not paying a fee to them. It's
Okay.
a no fee contract. So it is straight pay for services rendered. So you are correct. We are not on the hook for any money with them right now.
Okay.
And then if they were to raise the rate, we could look elsewhere for other services and just not utilize them.
Okay. So it's
Is that the reason why this?
standard.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, so it's pretty standard for these contracts to not have a time frame on them?
Yes.
Okay.
This as an example, this is similar to when we have a school nurse that fills in for one of our health office staff periodically. Okay, and it's basically a pay for services, for that day, something like that, and it's open-ended. That's pretty standard.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I have a more procedural question. Is that the reason why it's in a consent and not an item for discussion? Because it's a no fee contract? Just out of curiosity. I know we approve contracts in the back end. This was in the consent, just curiosity.
Yeah, so just like we would do for like a special ed NPA provider, there's no actual fee for it. So it's really just approving the contract for us to be able to use them for services. And then you would be, if there were any services that were, higher than our signer limit, then you would be approving those. Raymond, you're muted.
You're muted.
Any additional questions or comments from the board?
I just have a question about C. Oh, well, so I want to say thank you to the law firm for the donation of the furniture, but also what's our relationship to this law firm?
My wife, Lisa, is a partner at this law firm. So it's worked out well as they're reducing their space and moving into a smaller space in Long Beach. So they didn't need all this furniture that they spent a lot of money on several years ago. Okay, so we're the happy recipients, our school sites and the office here, the administration office. So it worked out well.
That's awesome. And thank you again, because I saw, 3 offices were furnished. I'm like, we need to like this law firm.
Actually, they furnished all of our offices at the central office. So that was 5 offices, and then our furniture in the lobby and Ingrid's desk and Derek's desk. So they really did an awesome
They
thing.
did. We're picking up a little bit more in the next week to take to the school sites. So.
That is so nice. Thank you.
They even make David move it, which is
Yeah. My workout plan. Yes.
Yeah,
sir.
we do have to move it, but hey, it's free.
hey.
Thanks for pointing that out. Thank you.
Okay, any additional comments or questions from the board regarding consent items A through E? Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Agarwal,
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kugu,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Hi.
Director Travis.
Aye.
Okay, this motion carries unanimously. That brings us to item 7, Executive Director's Report. David, are you going to do this? Give Amy a break, speaking break?
I'm just going to say I have no comment tonight, except that everything's going well, and we're just going to leave it at that.
All right.
We were going to keep it very short and sweet tonight. So thank you.
Good. And thank you so much for being here, Amy. You're a trooper. You're a beast. Okay, item 8, Director's Reports. So all you directors start reporting. Danelli, get to work.
Okay. I'm going to go
Stop
first.
messing around.
Okay. I just wanted to encourage anybody who hasn't seen the board update that's in the public, that's up on the website. That's a public version of the confidential version that we receive. And it gives us a really good idea of what's happening at the school. So I really encourage anybody who's watching to check that out. And it gives you a lot of information, tells you how hard everyone's working and all the little things that are happening that you don't see behind the scenes. I just wanted to also comment about the Saddleback garden stools. I saw pictures of that. That was phenomenal. It was fantastic. We have such great families, and I thought that was wonderful. And I spent some time looking at the clubs at SV and SOC and the work in that document, and everything that's happening there is so exciting. And I'm so excited for our kids to be able to participate in this way and to have such wonderful teachers who are willing to do this. I was super impressed, and I just congratulate all of you on all your hard work. And I hope everyone takes a moment to look at that document and look at the different clubs and what we're offering our children. It's wonderful. And then the academic interventions, the OPA Achieves, the homework club, the online tutors, zones of regulation, I think it's called. fantastic work, and I really highly commend you on all of that. So thank you. And that was all my comments.
Man, oh man, oh man. Everything she said, because you said it so perfectly. And on to you, Director Kagu.
Echo what Denali said. I won't repeat it. A couple of additional elements. One is plug to the administration and the staff. Pick up and drop off is already such a big burden and a task for the staff. So as parents, I would encourage all of us to not take shortcuts, not say, I'm just going to be here for like 5 seconds in front of a driveway or park in the red. I've myself seen the chaos that happens when somebody chooses to just take, oh, I'm going to put on my blinkers as if that's going to solve a problem. So I know the administration continues to remind parents to be mindful. You're setting an example for your kids. So I make a big plug for the staff. They didn't tell me to say this, but I really feel passionate about it can get dangerous when people break the law. And so I rather encourage everyone to sort of, follow the rules. They're there for a reason. And those 5 minutes you're going to save is not going to change your world. So certainly would love to do that. And then, I want to thank all the staff and the teachers and the children. I mean, the clubs is such a fantastic thing. And I think there's more to come, right? I mean, there's more to come. We don't have a detailed update on the Strategy and Development Committee today, but I certainly want to point out that there's a lot of good work happening, including, we're doing an assessment on which of the outcomes we have that we would like to bring back, and each of these outcomes from a student perspective, what are the programs that we have today in place that are going to lead to those outcomes, and then what new programs or initiatives do you want to bring in? That'll tie into a lot of culture, it'll tie into our communications plan. So there's some good work happening. I believe Amy's scheduling like either a more detailed session in a board meeting in December or a learning session where everybody will get a chance to sort of see the progress we've made and, obviously influence it and comment on it. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Before, did any directors forget anything? And if they did, now's your chance.
Yeah, thanks, Raymond. I was gonna comment about wanting to get an update on how we're doing on culture implementation. So thank you, Paul.
Cool. Okay. Director Smith.
I'll be really brief. We do have an academic outcomes update that will be shared later, but I guess at this moment, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all the staff and our parent representative. So much thought and care is going into the work in that committee. So I really just appreciate what I'm seeing happen. I think it's going to land on a really good, high quality product for our students. And then I guess similar to what was said before, well, unfortunately, my work schedule prevents me from getting out to a lot of the activities that are during the daytime with OPA, but I do look at all the different report outs and the pictures, and I really appreciate the effort that's going in to the different grade level meetups. So finding these safe, creative ways that even still being in a pandemic somewhat, we're looking for safe ways to continue to build community. So I just really appreciate everyone who contributes to those activities. And that's it.
Okay. Director Travis.
I don't really have much to add. Just a big thank you to everybody for everything you're doing. It's really incredible to see how the school is kind of responding to, being back in this, back on site and just moving everything forward. It's just kind of cool to see where we're headed, and I can't wait to see more of what happens. So thank you.
Yay, well said. Okay. Any additional reports from the directors? All right, that leads us to item number 9, items for presentation. First is financial report. Amita Parikh, welcome.
I think Amita's running a little late, so if it is okay with the board, we will do her presentation last. If that works for everyone.
Sounds great. So we'll move on to, do any board members have any feeling about moving the financial report to the end?
It'll just be the end of the presentation, so.
Sure. Understood. And then, okay, great. So then hearing no comments from the board, we'll hear school reports from Mrs. Alvarado and Mr. Bridges.
May we get sharing permissions, please? While we're getting the sharing permission, we just want to say good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have lots of great information to share about all the wonderful things that are happening on our campuses. But Mr. Bridges will get started and I will take care of the presentation slides.
All right, present. Okay, thank you for listening to Mrs. Alvarado and I talk about our school sites. It's something that we love to do, and we can spend hours just talking about the great things that our staff, our teachers, and our champions get to participate in every day. Brief update on our clubs. As mentioned prior in the meeting, we have started our clubs, which is a fantastic, I believe, at the SV site, we have upwards of 25 clubs, club opportunities for our students that include in-person before and after school, in-person during lunch recess, as well as virtual opportunities for our students. As was said earlier, these clubs would not be able to take place if it wasn't for our staff volunteering their time to oversee these clubs and provide the students with opportunities. I also want to thank Mr. Hanks, Mrs. Naronha, and Ms. Carnavali for leading our Cyber Patriot team. Partner with Troy High School, and our kids are doing a fantastic job in that program, meeting on Wednesdays, and then on the weekends they have competitions. So that is fantastic. Here we see also some donations from our great families, the Giant Connect 4, Legos, ping pong paddles. So every day we get gifts and deliveries to the front office from our parents that we're able to then put right out into our students' hands. So thank you to everybody. Okay, next slide. Oh, the SV SOC football volleyball game. What a fantastic week. All week the kids were excited and the staff was excited. It was great to be able to offer this to our school community and our families. It was well attended. I believe even a Kona ice truck showed up on the street outside of the campus. So it was great to see everybody socializing, communicating. The teachers were there supporting. At each site, we got to wear our colors, the pink and the orange. And also on that week, on Wednesday, the school SV staff and students wore blue in support of Bullying Awareness Month. So our counselor, Miss Gretchen, has been going into classrooms and providing lessons on bullying and what to do if this were to occur. So it was a great week. It was a great day. We can't wait for tomorrow to visit SOC. Everybody's excited to go see our sister campus and their staff and their kids and have another fantastic day. Okay, at the SV campus, a couple weeks ago, our 4th grade virtual students were able to participate in an online virtual walkthrough, a history walkthrough. This week, our 6th graders, again, great to be able to have this in person, participated in their ancient civilization walkthroughs. All 3 of our 6th grade classes came to school dressed in their best attire and were able to participate in a 3-4 hour presentation as they're walking through history. They each learned their individual parts and they presented. So it's a great way, and it's a great tradition we have here at OPA that we're super excited and happy that we're able to offer our students. And then previously on Monday, our 6th grade virtual students participated in there. Sorry, Miss Alvarado, I threw
Sorry.
a curveball at you. And lastly, I just wanted to touch base. We had our second Blackwell's Day of the year today. Again, every Friday, Miss Merlette dons her tutu and scholarship fairy outfit and goes out and collects scholarships for our Friday raffle that we announced over the loudspeaker. 15, 20 students come up to the front office, but Blackwell's Day is a huge day. Every single student on campus will be able to come through Blackwell's and have the opportunity to spend their scholarships. Again, thank Mrs. Merlette. Thank you all the families that provide donations for Blackwell's Honor Society for providing Blackwell's items as well. And thank you to our PAL and ASB students for helping run the program. It's a great day. The kids are super excited. On the lower right-hand corner of the screen, that is our middle school lunch. So the last month, we learned not to have 100 middle schoolers in Honor Hall at one time. So we lined them up. Miss Hadley was the bouncer at the door and allowed 15 in at a time. They went in, grabbed their items, and then came out. So it was a great day, and we're super excited to be able to provide this opportunity. A couple more shout outs. Yes, our teachers are fantastic. Our front office staff is fantastic. We had our annual OCDE site visit for maintenance in our facility. And I wanted to give a shout out to our custodial staff. They have done a fantastic job at SFE, keeping the campus clean and safe for the kids, and glowing remarks from the gentleman from the OCDE came out. So they have done a great job, and thank them. They get us through the day and make school fun for the kids. And what's great is they're interacting with the kids, right? So they go into classrooms and they say hi, and they interact with the kids as they come through the officers or walking down the hall. So that's all I have for SFE, and I will hand it over to Ms. Alvarado.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to start off by sharing with all of our families and every staff member and everybody who's joining us today about our parent engagement opportunities. Oftentimes, we don't share this enough, but I wanted to make sure that all of our families were aware of our South Orange County goals in terms of parent engagement opportunities. We want to ensure that a welcoming environment is there for families in the OPA community. We want to provide parent opportunities to learn how best to support education at home and at school, and then also provide parent engagement activities that value partnerships with parents for the benefit of our students' academic and social emotional achievement. So if you're not familiar with our website, we have updated a lot of different things throughout it, but on there's parent engagement opportunities section. And in this section, you will find what parents can do to get involved every single month. So this gives parents a little snapshot of each month. For example, if you look at August, we have Honor Society events, Chancellor Chat, School Site, English Learner Advisory Committee, and then there's school-wide events on the last column. So for September, October, so October was a busy day, as you can see. We had Honor Society on the 10th, and then we had Chancellor Chat and School Site, but also these are the school-wide events. This is a list of all the different things that are happening. The readathon, first grade meetup, second grade meetup. Well, first grade meetup was postponed. Red Ribbon Week that is coming up, and also Literature Day. So this gives parents an opportunity to see what is happening on our campus month by month. There we go. So grade level meetups. Thank you for mentioning about the grade level meetups that are happening. We have a year ago, or last school year, our school site council determined that there is a need to build more connections with our families. And as a result, we developed a plan to have grade level meetups at a different location, knowing that COVID was going to prevent us from doing things on campus. We came up with some creative ideas of having these events outside of campus, but near enough where our families and staff members can get together. Our goal is to have a grade level meetup for TK through 8th grade by February 2022. And on the left-hand side, you can see all the dates. We have a few that are still pending that we are going to finalize, but those should be finalized by Monday. I want to share with everybody just a quick little video about our TK and K grade level meetup, so you can kind of get an overview of what happened that day. We had our SRO there who was present. We had our specialty teachers supporting the event. We have board members there as well. Dr. Kernan was there. And then we also had of course, our TKK teachers there with us that day. We have a ton of pictures. Our goal is to collect those pictures. We post them on social media, and we also share with our families on our Sunday message as well. Excuse me. Our game was also a little bit about the game day, SOC versus SB. As you can see, orange was all over. I think we took over Chancellor Bridges with our orange everywhere all over SB. So just don't be surprised of all the orange that's coming up for this Friday. Our game is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks to all of our coaches that are preparing our students and providing this opportunity for everyone. A special thanks to our staff members who were also there supporting, as well as we had also our event broadcasted and also live on YouTube. This was an opportunity for one of our students who was interested in this field. And so we had someone volunteer with us. He's actually Mr. Franey. We have one of our teachers in 6th grade whose husband does this for a living from the University of Redlands. And so he was there to support this event and broadcast it. So we thank you, a special thanks you to Mr. Franey. Real quick, STEAM elective is going well, where there's lots of things going on in our elective class. 7th and 8th graders in this picture are students exploring circuits and conductivity, as well as creating keyboards using Play-Doh, carrots, and cucumbers. I get lots of pictures on a regular basis from our STEAM teacher, Mrs. Kolk, sharing all the different activities and creativity that is happening in the classroom. So I wanted to share a little bit more about what was happening in the class. And Mr. Bridges and I, go ahead, Mr. Bridges, for the upcoming events.
Sure, you probably just heard the dog food portable. So upcoming events, we have Red Ribbon Week coming up. Our students have dress days every day of the week in support of Red Ribbon Week. Our Literature Day activities, both for our virtual students and our in-person students. SV has a school site council, the second meeting on the 30th. And then this Saturday, the SV Honor Society is sponsoring our Fall Family Fun Night, where our families that sign up are able to go on a scavenger hunt through Lake Forest. We'll meet at the campus first, scavenger hunt through Lake Forest, and then come back to the campus to see the results of the scavenger hunt. So it's a great event. Thank you for the Honor Society, all the hard work that they have put in to this event, and we can't wait for it. And I would like to thank Ms. Alvarado in advance for running the scoreboard at the SOC campus. Since
I never agreed. Please let it be known.
I ran it at my campus. Just watch the referees; he'll tell you when to stop and everything. And thank you to the executive admin team for coming out to the football game as well. It's great to have everybody together supporting our students and our schools.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, we'll go into curriculum and instruction with Dr. Henry.
Yes, hi, let me pull that up. And And while I'm pulling that up, you're going to see a lot of the same pictures. I was smiling while our chancellors were presenting because they're sharing all the awesome stuff that's going on at their schools. And as am I, a lot of the same pictures even. So, but maybe with a little different lens. So here we go. Okay, it's taking a moment to come up. Let me get back to the first slide. You can see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. I see myself breaking up just a tad. So I want to make sure I was still good. All right. Sorry, it's slow. So to start my my update for curriculum instruction, I just wanted to share, it has been such a pleasure walking through classrooms every week, trying to hit each school once or twice a week, talking to teachers, just getting the vibe of the campus and learning about all the amazing programs that we have. So the way I wanted to organize this is really to share some of the activities that we have that really highlight the multiple intelligences and all the unique ways that our champions are able to learn. So you heard that Chancellor Bridges talked about the walkthrough history events, both virtual and in person. So on the right, you can see that was a virtual walkthrough history, and that's for our 4th through 6th graders. And then on the left, I was able to come while we had an in-person event. They truly are amazing. Our students are so into it, and our facilitators of the programs, both virtual and in person, are extremely engaging and knowledgeable, and it really feels like our students are living history. They will continue through the year, and so we'll continue to give you highlights with that. Our Mandarin teachers, these are just a few examples of the multiple intelligences in action. Our students, grades 3 through 5, are creating books written in Mandarin, and then they have QR codes where they're taking a picture, and you can see the students videoing themselves presenting their storybooks aloud. Our kindergartners did a letter fashion show. It was amazing. All of our kindergartners in both classrooms at SOC learned their letters and their sounds, and so they were rewarded with our first inaugural letter fashion show. You'll see some pictures in my next slide. And then you'll also see our 6th graders were designing and creating their own civilizations. I could really go on and on with the amazing things that we're seeing, and the teachers have really started to share and send pictures. And so we'll continue to highlight these things as we go on. But you can see our annual ABC fashion show pictures, our Mandarin books, designing civilizations, and some of the same pictures that you have seen from the walkthrough history. Also, our STEAM program. So some of the same pictures that Chancellor Alvarado showed, but with our STEAM program, it's so fun to visit and learn more about what both of our teachers are doing. We are very lucky that both of our STEAM professors, they collaborate on a daily basis. They collaborated with their purchases of equipment, and they love working together. So we know that we have a program that really is at its highest level at both of our sites. Our Art Masters curriculum was purchased for our STEAM teachers to deliver until we're able to get back and have our parent run program, which is our ultimate goal, but we still want to deliver some Art Masters curriculum through the STEAM program. That's the A in STEAM. We have advanced technology that's been purchased, engineering equipment in our STEAM labs, and it really is fun watching this take life. Our champions currently are using what's called Tinkercad. It's a computer adaptive design program, or assisted design program. So a CAD program to design bubble wands, and then they're creating them with their 3D printers. They're, as Chancellor Alvarado said, you can see in the pictures here, they're using what's called makey, and they are exploring circuits and conductivity, creating external keyboards, using vegetables and Play-Doh. And then also our STEAM professors led our students through a portrait project, which was also a fundraiser because families were able to purchase their student portraits on a variety of items like coffee mugs or t-shirts if they were interested. Here are some pictures. You can see the CAD program on the top left of how the students were designing their bubble wands. And then in the top center, that is the 3D printer as it's printing out one of the students' designs. And you have some samples there on the right. And then our other pictures are back with that makey and where the students are learning about programming and conductivity. And also our enrichment. I think being newer to the organization, I am so impressed the way that we have so many engaging activities and really honor the whole child. So again, our clubs have been mentioned quite a few times. I do want to also say we have virtual and in-person clubs, and our virtual students can see either in-person or virtual, and vice versa. Our in-person students, if they're more interested in a virtual club after school, they can do that as well. We have our intramural sports program, the football and volleyball games. And as mentioned, our second set of games will be tomorrow at SOC. We have music, world languages, Taekwondo is back. That's been a lot of fun to watch. Our STEAM and elective offerings. And then also we've had a lot of our other presentations, PBIS, anti-bullying, No Place for Hate events, which is a program that promotes positive relationships with students. I also heard Chancellor Bridges talk about the Cyber Patriot program with Troy High School, which is something new for us and really exciting. Give you photos of some of the events that are going on. That wasn't a great picture of the game, but of the first game, but you can see our students working in clubs, Taekwondo, and then also our Husky for our PBIS programs. And then finally, professional learning. So we are committed to helping our staff continue to learn and grow so that they can support our champions and our families. So on the last few Fridays, our professors provided feedback for the champion profile. You'll hear a little bit more about that at the end when we give our academic outcome committee update. They had an iReady training. They learned how to use data reports. Hopefully our families saw those in the data reports being shared with them during parent conferences. They've been working on having writing assessments across the grade level at both schools. We had a social studies training for our middle school teachers. And then we had some differentiated training where our newer professors could learn more about ARIES from our wonderful executive director, Amy Kernan. They could also pop in and learn more about GATE from our GATE coordinators. And then also our STEAM teachers had their rooms open in case they wanted to collaborate or learn more about what was happening for the push-in STEAM model. Some of our professors attended a GATE training, learning more about the thinking prompts, also called the GATE icons. Our MTSS team met a few times and completed a very detailed self-assessment, really looking at our strengths in our continuum of support for our students. And then finally, we're really looking forward to November 1st. That is our first full professional learning day of the year. We have an international education consultant and author who will be a keynote speaker and a facilitator for our work in the morning. And then we have teachers, professors are leading our afternoon sessions. We will have some on intervention, differentiation, and personalized learning. And then we have a mystery activity that we're not going to share. It's going to be a surprise, but it really is focused on the fun, self-care, and building community for our staff. And this is designed by other professors. So I think it's going to be exciting. That ends my presentation. I will stop sharing and let me know if you have any questions.
Okay. That was lovely. Any comments or questions from the board? All right. So that leads us to the salary comparison study with David and Eva.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I am presenting tonight for the first time. So please excuse my hesitation sometimes. I have a very quickly brief slides. Miss Ingrid is helping me with sharing them with you.
And
All
Eva,
right.
you're doing wonderfully.
Thank you, Mr.
We know
Mr.
you're going to
Jackson.
do perfect. It's going to be
You know,
awesome.
that first time is always gives you jitters, right? Well,
because we hold ourselves up to people like David and Amy, you know, so
that's
they're so polished and perfect that we, what are we going to do? You're going to do great. I know it.
Thank you for the confidence. Well, I'll be sharing very quickly with you. I have just a few slides. We wanted to present to your attention a few highlights that will be presented during one of the action items later on about the amendment of the salary schedule. I wanted to just make a few highlights. Wanted to bring to your attention that the reason for us to review the salary schedule is to, first of all, account for upcoming California minimum wage rate increase, hourly rate increase, beginning on January 1st, 2022, and also to plan ahead for any potential future hourly rates increase, minimum wage increases for 2023 and going forward. And then we also wanted to make sure our hourly rate are attracting difficult to find talents, and also you know, with the current job market, it's sometimes hard to fill certain positions. We also would like to retain those talents that we already recruited. That's why we went in and compared surrounding school districts such as Capo Unified, Saddleback Unified, Irvine, and Tustin to make sure we are competitive with the surrounding school districts in terms of our hourly rate for certain positions. And with that, here are the highlights of the changes. For admin salary schedule, we are proposing to add a director level 1 for technology. This job description will be presented to you in more detail later on. Then for certificated salary schedule, we would like to raise our daily rates for regular substitute teachers to $170 per day, and for our long-term substitute teachers to $190 per day. Again, to stay competitive with our surrounding school districts, making sure our substitute teachers are compensated equally, and we would like to attract those talents to come to work for OPA. Again, as you probably all know, there's a shortage of substitutes, so we would like to stay competitive in that regard. For classified salary schedule, we reviewed our needs, OPA's needs, and decided to remove a couple job descriptions, I guess. Nutrition service specialist and library media specialist positions will be removed from the classified salary schedule. And on the next slide, you would see Ingrid can get to the next slide. Thank you. You would see that for the following positions, we are proposing to update or increase hourly rate. The positions affected are registrar, office assistant, school nurse assistant, instructional assistant level 1 and level 2, instructional aide PE, cafeteria assistant, and campus supervisor. Once again, we did comparison with surrounding school districts, and those are the positions that we felt we wanted to bring up at the level with the surrounding school districts, or even a little bit above to, again, to attract and retain the hard to find talent. Those are the highlights of the changes that we are proposing, and the amended salary schedule will be presented to you later for approval. Any questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you did wonderfully.
Thank you.
Secondly, is it So the school districts, they post their salary schedules. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So they post their salary schedules. Do charter schools post their salary schedules?
We do. Our salary schedule is posted on our website. Not all charter schools, however, do that. During the comparison analysis, I was not able to find salary schedule posted for a couple of charter schools in very close proximity to us.
Got it. Is it not an appropriate request to call a charter school and ask them if they would share that? Is that like secret stuff? I don't know that. Do you know?
If it's a public charter school, that information is public, so they shouldn't be able to withhold that information.
It may be something that we could, do in the future and see if there's an opening there. That's a good.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
What other questions from anyone on this topic?
Nice work, Eva.
Thank you.
Okay. Any
Eva, thank you.
any other questions? All right, Eva. Number 1 in the books. Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so here we go. Item E, the Sr3 and Lrp plans.
That's me. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Patricia.
What I lack in polish, I make up for with enthusiasm. I'm going to say that right up front. And I'm going to share my screen if I can. And I'm going to start with the LRP plan and go through that presentation with you all. And let's start it. Here we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. The Learning Recovery Plan, we're very fortunate, and I'm happy to get to talk about this, to be the recipients of some funding that has come through from the state of California. So due to some recent legislation, the legislation has appropriated funds through the CDE to our SELPA, which is our Special Education Local Plan area, for us to spend along with them to provide learning recovery support for our Scholar Academy students. And it really is to address learning needs that have stemmed from the COVID-19 public health emergency. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And I want to say now, thank you, Rosa. Rosa created this presentation, and I get to be the one to present it, but you can jump in anytime you want, Rosa, if you would like. We wanted to share with you the overview of the requirements. And it's a summary of what I just described. The money that we're receiving is listed on the side of the slide. You can see OPA SV and then OPA SOC, how much we're getting for our Scholar Academy students. But we really needed to break down what we would be spending that money on. And then in the future, we're going to provide a detailed report of what we spent it on and what the resulting data is. And so some of the things we identified were items such as additional occupational therapy services on site for some of our Scholar Academy students. Also, a speech and language pathologist and services and materials for our Scholar Academy students who need speech services, where it may have been interrupted or there's larger gaps in their speech because of being distance learning and then hybrid learning. And then also we looked at SOC, we hired 2 additional instructional aides to push in to our classrooms to provide service for our Scholar Academy students. So we're very excited that we have the opportunity and the funding to be able to do this. Let me go ahead and switch to the next slide. And then we had the report I talked about where we have to talk about what we spent our money on and what is the data is on or before September 30th of 2023. and we will break down the data to include the bullet points that you see. So our next step after this is our report goes to our SELPA. They provide feedback, and then eventually it goes to the California Department of Education. And that is that presentation. Any questions?
I have a question about, so the Learning Scholars Program, and were students in that pre-pandemic, and that program's been identified as a hotspot where we need to put these extra resources because we've
Right.
seen gaps, or were students placed in that program post-pandemic? And yeah,
Okay,
I'm just wondering
that's
how
a
that
good
works.
question. Okay. So our Scholar Academy is what we call our program where all of our students with disabilities reside. Instead of calling it special education, we call it Scholar Academy. So all of our students with disabilities are in our Scholar Academy. So they will all benefit from this money.
Okay. And was any assessment done to see that they had learning gaps, or it's just assumed? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
What's the baseline what's the problem we're trying to solve, and the baseline where we're trying to get them to?
I see hands being raised. Who else would like to speak on this?
So really, this money was provided for all of the different schools within our SELPA, which is, like Trish said, our special education plan area. So most charter schools are part of El Dorado Charter SELPA. And the SELPA received a large pool of money and then allocated it based on how many special education students each site had. And really it's, we didn't have to have any initial baseline testing. The funds are really supposed to be used just to improve the learning experiences for our special education students and provide them with some accelerated learning based on the fact that, everybody was out during the pandemic. And so there was some learning loss just in basic instructional time for all of those students. So really it's being able to provide those extra services. We receive the money, kind of regardless of where our students are. Our students, in comparison, when we look at our iReady data and some of our other data, in comparison, our students didn't have a huge gap in learning, but we know that, just from not being in school for such a long period of time, there was some areas that we can now provide these funds just to be able to give them a little bit of extra support. And it's restricted funding, so it has to be spent on our special education students. So in looking at where we saw some gaps, this is where we chose to spend that money. Things like OT, since we haven't had in-person OT during the pandemic, making sure that we're providing it for students who may have had a little bit of regression with those types of abilities during the pandemic, since OT is such a kind of in-person thing. So that's kind of where we or how we chose to spend that money.
Thank you. That context really helps.
And now I'm going to move
Ms.
on.
McGrath, I saw something about matching funds. So are we supposed to provide matching funds too?
So as part of the funding that we always, so our special education expenditures always encroach on the general fund. We don't get enough special education money to pay for all of our necessary special education expenditures. So we do have to show that we are providing similar funding to what we are getting, but that's really never a problem with special ed because we have so much encroachment already.
Okay. That was wonderful. Any additional questions from the board?
And if not, I'll move on to my second presentation. Ready? Here we go.
We're ready.
All right. And this is our presentation, which Rosa and I worked on together also, our Sr3 Expenditure Plan. And really what the Sr3 Expenditure Plan is, and I put some writing in for you to read, but I'll just summarize it also. The Congress passed the American Rescue Plan, ARP, known as ARP, in March of signed into law on March 11, 2021. But we received through this plan 3 different pots of money, buckets of money. This is the 3rd pot of money. So what it is for is to address all of our students, all of our champions' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, as well as any opportunity gaps that have existed before and were exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And Dr. Kanan just talked about our Scholar Academy students and what could have been perceived as opportunity gaps or gaps that existed that were made worse by the pandemic. This pot of money addresses all of our learners and academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs. And here are the requirements that we needed to address in our plan. We needed to talk about to what extent the funds would be used for prevention and mitigation strategies at our sites to keep our kids safe in regard to cleanliness, our procedures following the California Department of Public Health requirements in regard to COVID-19 and keeping it from spreading and all the pieces that we've put in place in the past. But that's one of the requirements, that we maintain that piece through expenditures with this money also. And then how we will use at least 20% of our money to address learning loss or perceived learning loss as a result of the pandemic, and through the loss of instructional time when we were distance learning and hybrid, and using interventions such as summer learning or summer enrichment, extended day, after school programs. What will that look like for us in our OPA schools? So this is what we have, some examples of what we have put in our plan that we will be doing. So to address keeping our campuses safe and clean, cleaning supplies to support in-person instruction, minimizing possible transmission of COVID-19, mental health services provided by a school counselor. We now have 2 school counselors, 1 at each school, and they have been a blessing this year. They are amazing, and they're creating quite an impact already by being able to focus on only 1 school at a time. Mental health, those mental health services have been developed through school counseling lessons that they provide in the classroom that help all of our learners. Social emotional learning program, a second step, which I've talked about before and you've heard about from others, which is our social emotional curriculum that all of our professors have in their classroom. Our MTSS development and support, which Dr. Henry has spoken about at length, but this money also helps support that. Our PBIS rewards program, which you heard our chancellors talk about, and the scholarships and the champions being able to go to Blackwell's, but also that whole program, we're able to provide infrastructure and support through these monies. And then OPA Achieves after school program to provide learning support is also provided by this money. And then I know you know about the Full Steam Ahead program that was provided last summer. This money, because we will be spending it next year, is going to be providing the ability to offer that same type of program during summer school next year. And that is it. What next steps with this plan is it will be submitted to our authorizers. It goes to the Orange County Department of Education and our authorizers. and they review it and give us any feedback they see that they need to do.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board for Patricia? Okay.
How do you guys keep track of all these acronyms? I mean, I had to look up what was S. It's just crazy.
It's hard.
Like somebody's out there just creating these acronyms for all of us to get.
They are. And
We
it's
have
hard.
weekly tests to test everyone. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And there's even an acronym for that when they get together to talk about acronyms, that's called PD.
Yeah.
So it's the acronym to talk about acronyms thing. All right. So any additional questions for Patricia? Okay, so we'll hear financial report from Mita Parikh. Welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little late. It says I'm not able to present.
Sounds like somebody
just
might have a
fixed you.
cold.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Somebody might have a cold.
Yeah, I'm recovering from my cold. There we go. Okay, so today we're doing oh, hold on. I did not update that. Okay, well, these are the September financials. My apologies on that. Overall, in terms of the forecast for SOC, we are at a operating income of 602,000 for the year, which is down 68,000 from what we previously presented. The reason is related to increases in expenses compared to what we had forecasted. So in services and operating, a small increase, $8,000. These are related to the expenses that are flagged later in the presentation on the check and credit card register slide, mostly around some dues and services licenses that were over budget. For compensation and benefits, we saw a reshuffling of staff between SV and SOC. So you'll see on the next slide, there's savings for SV, but there's an increase in cost for SOC due to a shift in staffing. There's also an additional position that was added that likely will result in lower costs elsewhere in the budget. And so as we see those lower costs, we'll adjust the forecast for those savings. And then for business services, that is for our EdTech contract that is up for approval for this year. So I just trued that up to the current proposal, which is about 31,000 more than what we budgeted for the year. And so that's what that piece is. So for SOC, I did want to, for both schools, actually, I wanted to give you an attendance update. So last year we weren't doing these attendance updates since you were held harmless in terms of funding. But this year your revenue projections rely on what your actual ADA is. And so ADA is your average daily attendance, which is essentially your enrollment multiplied by the attendance factor. So if you have 100 students and you have 95% of them showing up, you'd have 95 as your ADA. So what this graph is showing is in our current forecast, we assumed an ADA for SOC of 810, which results in an operating income of 602,000. In the first month of the year, we actually saw attendance pretty close to that number, about 809. And so pretty close, just a little bit shy in terms of what we were expecting for the year. And so I just did a couple scenarios for you in terms of where you could see the year and how our forecast might change based on attendance as it goes through the year. So the low forecast essentially assumes that the rest of the year you meet that 810 ADA, even though month one was a little bit lower, you net to about $600,000 operating income, which is pretty in line with our forecast. For the high forecast, since month one, we've seen enrollment increase. And so what we ran the projection off of is if enrollment and attendance is higher for the rest of the year compared to what we budgeted, we could see ADA as high as 837, which could result in an additional $264,000 in revenue compared to what we're forecasting, that you could potentially increase expenses if you needed to, or be able to save that for future years. And so overall looking pretty stable for SOC.
And that 837 is actually where we are right now. I think we're actually at 840. So if we maintain our current enrollment, then that's where we would be for the year.
So then for SV, the operating income is projected at $546,000, which is up $21,000 from the previous forecast. The primary savings here is compensation and benefits. Majority of that is that reshuffling of staff from SV to SOC. But there were also some adjustments in terms of some of the turnover and positions that were filled. And so we adjusted salaries based on that, which resulted in some savings. Services and operating and business services are similar to SOC. So again, the same reasons of why they went over forecast. In terms of ADA for SV, we do have a slightly different picture than what we saw for SOC. So our current forecast assumed an ADA of 687, which is how we get to that operating income of 546 for the year. In the first month, we saw that basically attendance was at 650, which is significantly lower than what we forecasted for the year. So what the scenarios here indicate is that there are basically two different scenarios in terms of increased enrollment from month one, which is where we're basically at this point, but different levels of attendance. So the low forecast assumes kind of a little bit higher enrollment, but budgeted attendance, which is closer to 95%. And then the high forecast assumes higher enrollment than month one, but where we're at most recently, but more of our historical average of attendance, which is 97%. So essentially the takeaway on this slide is that even with SB potentially coming in lower on ADA, we are still anticipating a surplus in operating income for the fiscal year, but it is forecasted to be lower than what we budgeted. So kind of on the we're looking at $200,000 to $300,000 less than what we're forecasting in the previous slide.
And we actually did get quite a big bump in ADA just over the last couple of weeks. We were able to pull some kids transferred back. A lot of this SV enrollment issue was because we had a lot of students in the younger grade levels switch to virtual, and we had allotted those spots to students who were coming in from the outside to our virtual learning program. But instead, with the governor's mandate that all students who are seat-based have to be provided a virtual learning opportunity if they choose, we had a lot of students in those younger grades from SV that switched over to virtual. And then a lot of them have now gone back to seat-based, opening some of those virtual spots. And actually our current enrollment at SV is at 690 right now. So if we keep that, if we keep that current enrollment of 690, then we would go back up to where we had initially projected. So at the beginning of the year, there was a little issue for the first month or two with that switching over to virtual. But now it appears that we're close to, we're back close to our initial forecast.
So the next slide just has our check and credit card register. So on here you can see that the expenses that we flagged. So niche was one of the expenses that exceeded our forecast in terms of services. And then same with the School Services of California. That was the other expense that we flagged that was exceeding our budget for the year for services. And then the last slide that I have is essentially some of the plans that you just went over, some of the upcoming deadlines related to them. So just making sure that you're aware at the board level that there are some upcoming approvals in order to qualify for some of the one-time funds. So we've already kind of heard about the first two bullets here, but in December, there is the Educator Effectiveness Plan, which is new one-time funds that OPA would qualify for. It does need a public hearing before board approval, so you will likely see that on 2 separate meeting agendas. And then in February, there's an LCAP supplement that needs approval. And then there's an additional one-time funds around pre-K or TK funding. Those would be additional one-time funds that OPA would qualify for. And that plan is due at the end of this fiscal year. And so a lot of new plans to kind of keep track of as we're getting all these new one-time funds from the state. And that's my presentation. So unless there's any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Thanks, Amita.
Good job. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, that leads us to items for action. First item is approve board policies, both credit cards and employee reimbursement. These board policies have been updated to align with current procedures, regulations, and California Ed Code. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve action item A, both 1 and 2. Is anybody going to present on this, or are we just going to go straight into making some motions?
I'll say a few things about it. So the board reviewed and approved the annual update to the fiscal policies back in August 2021. The 2 policies that you're approving tonight are standalones. They are in greater detail and they were not included in the earlier fiscal policy manual. These items were brought up as a part of the current interim audit process. There is a generic kind of top level that mentioned in the current fiscal policies. And so what we want to do is kind of use this process throughout the year as needed, not often, if at all, and then will be incorporated into the annual review, update, and approval of the new fiscal policy manual again in August 2022.
Yeah, I have a couple comments. One is on the credit cards. I think there's a typo at the very bottom of the policy. It still says June 2017, so I'm assuming you guys can fix that. And the second one is a plug to our COO. His credit limit is $1,000. Is that a reason? I mean, I would assume that for COOs, their expenses would be higher. Should we consider giving a slightly higher credit limit, or has 1,000?
It should. Thanks for pointing it out. It should say 5,000.
Yeah, I think that's a typo, so we'll fix that.
The CAO and the COO are at the same level. So
I think right now it says 20,000 for ED and then 1,000 for both CAO and COO. So maybe you guys will fix that then. Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. Otherwise, I would have been violating the policy. So
yeah. I mean, $1,000 I don't think would go too far. Then you have to go ask Amy for money. Sorry, Dr. Kernan for money all the time.
Right.
I don't want them coming to me. I have my own kids, so I would rather make that 5,000.
Okay, so let's have a motion then, pretty please.
I make a motion on action item A.
Thank you very much, Director Travis.
I'll second it.
And thank you very much, Director Kagu. Now, anybody have any questions about this as amended? Right, so we're going to go ahead and we're making the motion to approve. I think just to clarify, Director Travis, you're making a motion to approve as amended with David's limit being 5,000. And what other changes? Go ahead, Steph.
David and Stephanie would be 5,000.
David and Stephanie at 5,000.
Okay.
And making the change to the year at the bottom of the page.
All right.
I thought I saw a version that had the proper credit limits. So yeah, I think we're looking at different things because I think you were at 5,000 or something, David, and
yes,
and the chancellors were at 1,000 apiece.
That's
what
correct.
I remembered. So I don't know, we've got a version issue maybe. So
We'll double
that-
check to make sure that everybody is the appropriate limit, but just to clarify, so we're making the motion with the credit limits for CAO and COO at 5,000 and for the chancellors at 1,000, if that works.
And when that, does that mean that they have the ability to commit the school to an expense? So let's say, for example, I'm just gonna make something up. Chancellor Bridges has an AC repair that's $900. They're standing there in front of them. They say, hey, this thing's broken. It's $900 to fix it. And Garrett can say, yeah, go ahead and do that.
Yes, Garrett can up to that $1,000. Normally, if it's something like that, he would run it by David anyway,
Anyway,
any
yeah,
facility
got it.
stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
but if it was an emergency and the school was flooding and David wasn't
Sure,
there, then
sure.
he would have that ability to be able to fix it without up to $1,000 without running it past David.
And,
Okay,
and we
and-
did have an emergency at SV yesterday, and Mr. Bridges approved it after talking to me, and it got resolved.
Awesome. And so how does this connect to credit card limits? So I'm assuming that the chancellors have credit cards. I'm assuming David has a credit card and you have credit cards. Do these limits precisely mirror the limits on the credit card as well?
Yeah.
Yes, this is specifically the credit card policy. So we're specifically talking about credit card limits here. Yeah.
Okay.
But
And
they do mirror the spending limits.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And I'm looking at page 45 where it says the limits, and they show 5,000 for chief academic officer and chief operations officer. So unless I'm, but they do.
You're right.
reflect
45
5,000.
does say 5,000. So I'll come back to you on where I saw the 1,000. But
Okay.
I'm glad it's 5,000. I think 5,000 is the right number.
And then 1,000
At
for the
least.
for the chancellors. Yes.
Maybe Paul's looking at a different version, but that's what we're going for right now. And so we'll do a hearing, a motion in a second, then we'll do a roll call approval for board policies, credit card and employment reimbursement. Director Agarwal?
All right, can I ask a couple questions first?
Always, yes,
Thank
always. Yes,
you.
please do. Sorry.
So the first one is related to employee reimbursement. And I noticed we're citing the IRS government rates for some of the items like mileage reimbursement, that we follow those standards. I didn't see a standard that we're following for lodging. And I know there is a federal standard, not that we have to follow that, but is there one that you're going to be using, or is there some reason there isn't one noted?
Are you talking about per diem? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like there's federal CONUS rates, and you can look up by zip code how much is reasonable,
Right.
so to speak, to be spent for lodging. And so often that's what organizations use with public funding.
I'm
Just
very
curious
familiar,
about that.
I'm very familiar with those from a past role. And I think the thinking here currently, okay, in the past, not to say we couldn't make a decision to change it, is we do such little overnight travel that it's always managed very closely, okay, approvals at, executive admin level, so that, and reservations for hotels and that kind of thing, as well as per diem, that it's just, very rare, okay, if at all, especially over the last couple of years, not at all, right?
Yeah, we don't really reimburse for lodging. We have that go through us. So an employee, if they were going to do an overnight trip, would have to have that lodging
Pre-approval.
approved and normally paid for by instead of a reimbursement. We try to do reimbursements as little as possible. So normally the reimbursements are only for mileage, and then every now and then a pre-approved expense if we need to go buy something, if somebody needs to go buy something and doesn't have a credit card. But for larger expenses like airfare and lodging, we would have an employee go through our payables department and have us be the ones that actually pay for it up front instead of getting a reimbursement.
But even if we pay for something up front, it doesn't mean like a $500 a night hotel would necessarily be okay or pass a newspaper test.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for any way we can take out
We-
subjectivity in the process. I'm all for
Yeah.
that.
We could add that in maybe in a future version if you want, or we could actually just pull, I'd have to look at it. I haven't looked at them for number of years.
And again, I also following suit with the other areas where we're following the IRS standard. Again, just thinking about how can we make it more objective and the same for everyone that might apply. I'm okay if you're telling me there's minimal travel and this is something we could wait and do in the next iteration, like I'm okay to do that. And the other question that I brought up with Mr. Barley before, it was a little bit about when I was trying to compare these new policies to what may exist. And I went to the policy manual and these items are somewhat referenced there, but don't have this level of detail. I think it makes it a little complicated that we have an approved manual called fiscal policies and then separate standalones. So I'm proposing that in the future, we explore a way to streamline where there's one resource where we have all of the policies. So they're accessible, it's transparent, and there's no confusion or complication between, wait, do I go to this document for the policy or that document for the policy? So that's just a suggestion and something like I said, I'd like to explore.
And we can definitely look at that. There are usually separate, more, I guess, sort of usually separate, some separate board policies, but we will try to incorporate those in. I think in a previous version of our fiscal policies from kind of back long before we were here, these were attached to the back of that policy, or some similar board policies were attached to the back. Our board policies are posted on our website as well, in a section with all of the fiscal policies, or the business and operations policies. So they actually are found in the same place, but we can also add these as an appendix to that. So anytime when we redo them, like Rosa said, in August of 2022, we can actually add these in as an appendix to that fiscal policy so that they can be found in either place.
Great. If everything's cross-referenced very well, that's good for me. I just don't want to be looking at a manual that doesn't include everything or reference where to go find the latest version of something specific. Okay.
That makes good sense. Logical. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay. See why I love my board mates? Awesome. Okay, any additional questions or comments about this item for action? Alrighty then, we'll get to a roll call vote. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kugu? We'll come back to Paul. Director Smith?
Oh, sorry, aye.
All right, Director Smith?
Aye.
And Director Travis?
Aye.
All right. Carries unanimously. That leads us to item B, approve fiscal year 2021-2022 learning recovery plans, both one for Saddleback Valley and item 2 for South Orange County. Section 161 of AB 130, Chapter 44 Statutes of 2021 appropriated $450 million from the general fund to the CDE on a one-time basis for allocation to special education local plan areas, aka SELPAs, to provide learning recovery support specifically. This funding shall be expended by SELPAs and their member LEAs for purposes of providing learning recovery support to pupils with disabilities associated with impacts to learning due to school disruptions stemming from COVID-19 public health emergency during the period of March 3, 2020 to September 1, 2021 inclusive. All funds must be encumbered no later than June 30, 2023. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve action items B, number 1 and 2. Is anybody going to present on this?
This is the information that Patricia Lukeroth presented on
Okay,
with the learning plans. Yes.
got it. Okay, so then may I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Director Kagu, and may I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Smith. Okay, any questions or comments from the board about this? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move directly into a roll call vote directly. Director Agarwal,
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kagu,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
and Director Travis.
Aye.
Okay, unanimously approved. Item C, approve the Sr3 plans. Item 1, OPA Saddleback Valley, and 2, OPA South Orange County. In response to the COVID-19 novel coronavirus COVID-19, the U.S. Congress passed the American Rescue Plan, ARP Act, which was signed into law on March 11, 2021. This is the third federal stimulus funding act in response to COVID-19. Following the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act and the Corona Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, or CRRSA, the ARP Act requires LEAs that receive ESSER-3 funds to complete an expenditure plan for how ESSER-3 funds will be used to address students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, as well as the opportunity gaps that existed before and were exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve action items C, number 1 and 2. We were presented this as well, Patricia, I believe.
Yes.
So, okay. Any additional presentation on this?
No.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Director Travis, thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Is that Director Agarwal?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so then we'll move into any questions or comments from the board about this? All right. So we'll do a roll call vote. Director Agarwal.
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kagu.
Aye.
Director Smith.
Aye.
Director Travis.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Item D, iReady English Language Arts, ELA, My Path. OPA students take the iReady diagnostic assessments 4 times a year in mathematics and ELA. We purchased an extension of the mathematics diagnostic assessment called My Path, which provides personalized instruction and lessons based on individual student skill levels and needs. Staff proposed the purchase of My Path for ELA for $20,343.50 so that students in all grade levels can independently accelerate their ELA level, learn skills that they may not have mastered during the previous grades, and monitor their progress. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve action item D. Is there any presentation on action item D?
I can share a little bit and answer any questions. So we do already use the My Path for math. So our students, as in the description, they take assessments 4 times a year, a baseline at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of each trimester also. And then our students can, on their own or in class, can log into their math assessments and they're given skills based on the items or the standards that they may not have done as well in the assessment. So when we went through the iReady training to look at data reports, it became apparent that although we give the iReady assessment for English Language Arts K-8, we do not have the ability for students to log in and have that personalized learning experience. So the staff proposed that they were really excited to see if that we could bring in this for our English Language Arts, where students can go in and have personalized learning experience based on their assessment results. We do have another program that does not do what My Path does. It's a standalone, and our hope is that as our professors get to use MyPath with their students this year, that we would be phasing our other kind of standalone intervention program out.
Love it. Any questions or comments from, actually, let's, we don't have that. So let's go through, may I have a motion, pretty please?
I make a motion to approve action item D.
Thank you, Director Agarwal. And may I have a second, please?
Second.
Director Smith, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board about iReady English Language Arts? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kugu?
Aye.
Director Smith?
Aye.
And Director Travis?
Aye.
All right. Item approved unanimously. So we move to E, approve the purchase of 270 touchscreen Chromebooks for K through first students. OPA provides one-to-one technology for all students in order to effectively deliver engaging, innovative curriculum and instruction. However, current Chromebooks are not as instructionally efficient for K1 students because many programs require a touchscreen. Therefore, it is recommended that the board approve the purchase of 270 Lenovo 300E touchscreen Chromebooks for one-to-one implementation for grades K through first. The cost for 270 Chromebooks is $86,357.81. Anybody going to present on this?
I can talk about it a little bit, although I think Stephanie was going to overrule me.
I'm ready to do it, but Dr. Kernan, you unmuted yourself, so go ahead.
So as part of our one-to-one program, we asked the board to approve the Chromebooks at the beginning of the year. And we have allocated those to our students. We did have more students this year that were getting our Chromebooks. And so as we were allocating those, we looked at the fact that in our younger grades, our K1, it would actually help in getting feedback from their teachers for them to have touchscreen Chromebooks that they actually don't really need to take home, that we would keep in the classrooms for them to use. So this is something that we did not put in our original budget, but we do think that it is really important. And so we do have excess operating income for both of our schools. And so in order to be able to provide the most effective technology for those younger grade students, we are asking that the board approve this so that our kindergarten and first grade teachers can have those touchscreen Chromebooks in their classrooms for their students to use. Then any of our non-touchscreen Chromebooks that our K1 students have, we would bring up to the upper grades to be able to have those as backups for when any Chromebooks break or to replace any Chromebooks. So that would also give us a cushion in our upper grades to be able to replace Chromebooks or provide Chromebooks to any new students that may be coming in. Like we presented earlier as well, SOC is actually above their enrollment projections. So that along with more students this year actually asking to use our OPA Chromebooks, we want to make sure that we have that cushion, but also are providing the best devices for our younger students to be able to use. And we were able to find these that are cost comparable to our current Chromebooks, but that would work better for our younger students. So we're asking the board to approve the purchase, and just kind of knowing that this would also be an additional cost. So when we did the budget revision, we would need to move some money over from our excess operating income to cover this non-cap expense.
Okay. let's, may I have a motion, pretty please?
I move to approve item E.
Director Smith, thank you. Second,
Second.
Director Travis, thank you. Okay, any additional questions or comments from the board about item E?
Yeah, I do. I mean, generally, I support it. I do have I think when we approved Chromebooks earlier this year, as Dr. Kunan, you said, we were suggesting getting more Chromebooks, but you'd said that, look, we have enough. Just with this, we should be able to cover everybody. So I would assume that if that were true, and then, there's going to be like more than 200 Chromebooks that'll be sort of in our inventory, right? These 270 Chromebooks. So I just want to make sure that if we can return some of the Chromebooks that we bought that we approved earlier this year, kind of like balance it out. Again, you don't need to answer it, just a comment. And the other question is more financial in nature. Do we get to amortize it over 4 years, or do we have to spend it this year? Do we have to recognize it this year?
We've recognized the full cost this year.
Okay.
Are you
However, we are looking.
Are you worried about all the tax we're going to pay?
No, I was just. I mean, like, I think, I was reflecting back on sort of the adjustments we have, right? And these things are going to happen. I just wanted to, I'm just trying to be cognizant of what we do. I mean, 90,000. This is absolutely the right use of our funds. I mean, this is what we need to be investing in. I was just trying to figure out. I mean, we already approved X Chromebooks, but at that time we wanted to approve a lot more. But then the general consensus was, no, we have enough already. We don't need to get any more. So this is definitely going to be excess Chromebooks that's going to be sitting in a shelf, right? Not these touchscreen ones, but the ones that the K-1 kids are going to return, right?
So there will be some excess, although when we approved the Chromebooks at the beginning, we approved it was before school started. And so we were approving based on what our projections were, based on how many kids borrowed a Chromebook from last year. We had a lot more students that are asking to borrow Chromebooks this year than we did last year. Perhaps for a variety of different reasons. Some of the kids that were virtual last year were just using their home computers. But we aren't going to have the entire 270 surplus because we would have, again, had to come back and we didn't want to buy extra, like a ton of extra at the beginning of the year until we knew how many students were going to need them. So we were basing them again off of our projections from last year and off of the survey that we sent home to parents. But more parents came in asking to borrow our Chromebooks. So it won't be an entire 270 on the shelf. It would likely be around 100 or even less than that we would be keeping as a cushion for lost or broken or new students who come in.
And Amy,
so this would be then in basically making up for the Chromebooks the extra that we need based on that more kids want them, as well as then in looking at the fact that we would have needed to get more, we thought that doing the touchscreen Chromebooks for K-1 would be a better option.
And Amy, didn't we hear from Amita that ADA is up as well?
And ADA is up at SOC and actually overall because of those new independent study students.
Our virtual
but it's
learning.
not up by 270, right? I mean, it was up by 30 in one school and 40.
Yeah, it definitely
doesn't
was
matter.
not.
I mean,
up by
again,
that
I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying that somebody better than me knows how to manage this inventory. So I just want to make sure that if we have new laptops sitting, and if some kid out there has a really old laptop, then let's redeploy it and not necessarily keep the new Chromebooks in our shelf, but somebody knows how to handle the inventory better.
Yeah,
than
we'll
I'm
we'll
not
be
by any means
replacing
saying that,
any
right?
of the older Chromebooks with these new Chromebooks that we have to move up to the grades 2 through 8. And we're also, like I think I presented when we bought the first round of Chromebooks, this will also be looking as part of our E-rate, our reimbursement technology reimbursement. We'll be looking to get that 60% or some of this cost reimbursed as well.
So I guess, I mean, I took this as, hey, we need to buy some new Chromebooks. We need to buy some new Chromebooks because people are asking for more. And so this time when we're thinking about the new Chromebooks that we need to buy, that we're going to buy the ones that are touchscreen because they're more, the feedback that we got from the K1 folks are, they would be better served by that.
Yeah, so it kind of fills two needs, the more effective Chromebooks for K1, but also because we would have needed to buy more Chromebooks anyway for 2 through 8. It sort of fills both of those things.
Got it. Okay, so so we have a motion and a second. Paul asked a question. Any additional questions from the board about action item E, purchase of the Chromebooks? Questions or comments? Okay.
And hopefully we get reimbursed for a big chunk of these too.
All right. So we'll do a roll call vote then. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kugu?
Aye.
And Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Travis?
Aye.
All right. This action item E approved unanimously. F, approved 2021-2022 contract with Laguna Beach Boys and Girls Club. Approved the 2021-2022 services agreement between OPA and the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Laguna Beach, which includes the Full Steam Ahead summer program and campus student supervision and enrichment activities. Anybody going to present on this?
I'll make a quick comment.
We're both comment. Go ahead.
All right. This is simply an update to an existing contract that we worked very hard on the last year, or the last school year, and it adds and contemplates the past and next year's Full Steam Ahead summer program, okay, as well as the campus supervision that they've been providing to us as an outsourced solution for campus supervision. They've been really great partners. I want to add that in. Ms. Lukaroff, anything to add?
No, just that, well, just a little bit, that in both schools, LCAPs, which is their school plan, serves as their school plan for the year, both had actions written in around expanding community partnerships as well as partnering for supervision for breaks and lunches. And the Boys and Girls Club have filled both of those actions under a goal for their LCAP, and we're very excited about that. So we enjoy a great partnership with them, and we continue to be excited about it and looking forward to it working out very well.
Thank you.
David, were you going to add something to that?
Nope, we're
Okay.
all set. Thank
All
you.
right. So then may I have a motion to approve action item F?
I make a motion to approve action item F. I
Director
second.
Travis, thank you. Second?
I second.
Nevis? Was that Danelli?
Yes.
Director Agarwal, thank you. Okay, let's, any questions or comments from the board about this? The question that I have about this is how does this in any way relate to what we do with the Y?
They are different programs meeting needs of families. The Y has a morning and really just a different approach than the Boys and Girls Club. So we're utilizing each organization based on its strengths that they can support us.
Perfect. Excellent answer. Thank you, David. Okay, then any additional questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kugu? Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Travis?
Aye.
Action item F passes unanimously. G, approved job description for Director 1 Technology. To meet the increased technology needs of OPUS, staff is recommending the board approve the job description for Director 1 Technology. Under the direct supervision of the Chief Operations Officer, the Director 1 Technology will manage and coordinate all aspects of technology planning, implementation, and maintenance throughout the organization. The Director 1 Technology will also work closely with the Chief Academic Officer to ensure high-quality technology implementation. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve action item G. Do you want to talk about this just briefly? Just go through some bullet points, Amy?
I will step in and share that it is, as written, we do feel like this is going to meet the current and future needs for technology. We have curriculum that's technology-based, and we're just have grown to such a point that, and with future contemplation, that we need to have this level staff person at this point. The other thing, this was also included on the presentation that our HR manager shared about the salary schedule. So it's tied to the salary schedule as well. Thank you.
Okay. So may I have a motion, please? Action item G, job description.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Director Kagu. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Director Agarwal. Any additional questions or comments from the board on job description for Director 1 Technology?
Yeah, I do have a comment. At the risk of putting my foot in the mouth like I did with Rosa's presentation, I think one of the things I understand from this position is also to improve the student experience, single sign-on for different programs and so on. So is that somewhere, when I read it quickly, I didn't notice something about like the student experience. I know it talks about learning experience. It feels that is more focused on, do they have the right programs and so on, but there's this whole different level of single sign-on and not having to remember 3 different passwords and so on. Is that something in the roadmap eventually? Maybe we could add something about having a long-term technology roadmap for our students, for our teachers, and so on. If that could be added.
Well, Dr. Kanan, you go ahead. If you like.
I'm just going to leave myself off. No.
Okay.
So as part of the job description, this person would also take on some of our DBA roles, so database administrator roles, things like single sign-in, making it more seamless for our teachers and our students to be able to access our different curriculum and programs. But also as this role would be integral in creating that long-term technology plan for OPUS. So as part of the job description, it talks about leadership roles and looking forward and creating those plans. So this person, one of my big roles for this person would be to create that 3 to 5 year technology plan that really outlines the student experience, our device upgrades, our infrastructure, all of that, so that we're able to better budget for the future, as well as make sure that our students and our teachers have everything they need looking forward for the next few years in technology.
And then will this person also be responsible for our website?
Yes, so website? As part of that, they'll also be looking at ways to improve our website. We've, the general day-to-day management of the website, making sure things are posted. We're trying to get all of the different departments and school sites, kind of doing that and making sure that we're doing that on a regular basis. But our technology department then would have that oversight of the website to make sure that things were happening, to make sure that it was visually appealing and easy for people to use.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty crucial role as long as we find the right person, somebody who's strategic in nature, who has those capabilities to build a long-term technology roadmap. Is just not an easy thing to do, right? I mean, it requires you to understand where the organization is going. None of us can do it, but you need to please make sure that your recruitment process includes that. I mean, you're not planning for current state, you're planning for like 3 years hence. So you need to find the right person for it. So just make sure that you guys do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big part of putting this role forward, was that, kind of looking to the future and making sure that we have someone that is with all of our new technology and where we are hoping to go in the future with technology and innovation, somebody who really has that, that strategic foresight and those skills and knowledge, to be able to do that.
And will this person also bring a new cell phone tower to the SOC campus?
If I could get my cell phone to work anywhere on that campus, it would be worth it to hire someone.
That's included under that bullet point, other duties as assigned. That's where that lies. Yes.
So we're recruiting Elon Musk, it sounds like. All right. No pressure to the new person.
It's David and Eva. They have to get.
We'll work it out.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Paul asked a question. Any additional questions about or comments from the board about the job description? Action item? Okay, hearing none. So we will move to a roll call vote. Director Agarwal.
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kugu.
Aye.
Who didn't put his foot in his mouth? Good job. Director Smith.
Aye.
Director Travis.
Aye.
Awesome. Item G passes unanimously. And Paul, you never put your foot in your mouth, buddy, just so you know. Item H, approve amendment to the 2021-2023 OPA salary schedule. Staff has revised the OPA salary schedule to reflect the Director 1 technology position, comma, an increase in the daily rate for substitute teachers and an hourly rate increase for several classified positions. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve action item H. David, you want to do a little brief? Okay.
This refers to the presentation that Eva Opanasek, our HR manager, made earlier to the board. So this is simply the approval of that salary schedule.
Okay. Great. So then may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve H.
Director Smith, thank you. Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Agarwal. Any questions from the board?
Maybe to the finance folks, other than the director position that we're adding, the financial impact is not going to be a big impact, right? I mean, I have no sense of how many registrars there are, and I was looking at the red line. Thank you for doing the red line. That's very helpful. But I assume that there's plenty of money in the budget, and that we're not even going to be close to burning up our budget and so on, right? But I would love for somebody to do a quick analysis to say it's expected to be about X $1,000 more. That'd be great to do.
We can do that. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, I had the almost exact same question. It's hard to really tell like how much more is going to be impacted by the budget with this. And we've already had several other big budget items tonight. And so, what is the ongoing expenses that we're going to incur from these upgrading these positions? I think we should do it, but it would be helpful for us to understand holistically how much it's going to cost us.
We can do that.
Ms. Parikh has promised no red numbers next month. So Ms. Parikh has promised that to us.
No, we don't.
Some of these positions have one incumbent in the position, so they're not a large number of total employees relative to total employment at OPA.
For most of these classified positions, there's very few people in each position, and it isn't a huge jump in the salaries that we're proposing. So, but we can put that together for you for the board update next week.
Thank you.
But it will definitely not put us in the red. We don't go red.
Okay. So we had a motion. We had a second. We have some questions. Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Are you, so Paul and my co-members, are you saying that you want to wait? Or do you want to, are you okay to approve this?
I think they want to approve it right now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
okay
have-
approving it, but I want to see the analysis because it's helpful for us to really understand
Of course.
where we stand after this. And I
We
think
will-
it'd be helpful moving forward. Anytime that this kind of stuff is presented, if we can understand what the budgetary impact is going to be.
Love
Yeah,
my
same
board.
with me. I think I did some back of the envelope math, and it doesn't appear to be a big number, but again, I don't know how many different positions there are, right? So yeah, it'll be helpful, some kind of a framing so that, you know, we'll know kind of how the ticker is moving, right? I mean, it's not, I don't think our aspiration is not get into red. I think there's also, we have aspirations to spend money on different things like extra Chromebooks and so on, right? So we're just trying to keep that in mind as well.
Yes.
But I'm okay approving it as well, because I think my back of the envelope says it's manageable.
Got it. But what's big or small to Paul might not be big or small to Delight. And so I love my board mates. Here to this, we're getting better every day. So going forward, I think, David, is the ask I
understand.
hear is, hey, this is what our budget looked like with salaries as we presented it to you 4 months ago. We're
Right.
making this change and the needle moves this much. You know,
As Dr. Ganan said, very understood, and we will provide, in this case, in the next board update, and then future situations or approvals of this nature, but certainly we'll have those numbers for you. Thank you.
okay, great. So any additional questions or comments from the board about action item H? Okay. So hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kagu?
Aye.
Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Travis?
Aye.
Okay, action item H, approved unanimously. I approve revised agreement for back office services from EdTech. OPA is transitioning over the next 6 months to take over all outside services provided by EdTech. This revised agreement decreases the total due to $156,000 for the agreement term ending on February 28th, 2022. The original EdTech agreement was $260,000 ending on June 30, 2022. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve action item I. And you're going to talk about, I mean, seems pretty obvious, but anybody going to talk about this?
I'm happy to, if you like. So this contemplates working with EdTech as a great partner of OPA to match the needs of OPA for this year, to reduce the total outlay and to change the date of the contract to February 28th of next year. And it does tie to the next item on the agenda as well. So this is a great savings, and we were very pleased that EdTech worked with us so well to get to this point to make it fit OPA's needs.
Okay. Sounds good. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve action item I.
Thank you, Director Kagu. Second, Director Travis. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board about item I? I would like to recognize that EdTech has really been super helpful in helping us and working with us as we move the dates around to transition all these services over. And so I appreciate their willingness to be flexible with us and helping this transition be super smooth. Thank you for that. Any additional questions or comments from the board? All right, we'll move into a roll call vote. Director
Can I make a quick comment?
Of
Sorry.
course you may. Of course you may.
I was just thinking, and based on the last conversation too, looking at big picture, I feel like this is an example of where in the past we've approved positions to expand capacity, right? So an increase in cost, but now we're reducing costs because we're bringing things in-house. So I just wanted to point that out, that there is some balance here in this example.
Excellent. Excellent observation. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the board? All right, so we'll move into a roll call vote. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kagu?
Aye.
Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Travis?
Aye.
Item I, approved unanimously. J, approved contract with Sage Intact Financial Software System, OPA, has investigated financial software options and is recommending Sage Intact to meet its current and future needs. The cost of the contract is $39,800 for a one-time implementation and $19,255 for annual subscription for year one, and annual subscriptions of $32,254 for years 2 and 3. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve action item J.
I will be doing a quick presentation on this, if I may share my screen with you.
Okay, your co-host.
Thank you. All righty. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. So here we have a list of the different vendor options we came across and we explored during this process. Some of these vendors are more familiar than others, but we wanted to explore as many options as possible for us.
Rosa, your PowerPoint isn't moving forward. It's just showing us the whole thing. So maybe hit presentation.
Let's see. Is that better?
There it is. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so I'll repeat myself. Here we have a list of different vendor options that we came across and explored during this process. Some of these vendors are more familiar than others, but we wanted to explore as many options as possible. This criteria list assisted us during this 3-month process. We explored functionality and modules, live demonstrations, data import and integrations, expansion and growth. You know, if we wanted to think of adding a campus in the future, how that would look like within our financial software system. We also talked about implementation timeline, the type of training and support they would provide. We also made reference calls as well as, you know, reading online reviews for ourselves. And last but not least, cost as one of the criteria. And with that said, we recommend Sage Intact as the best option for OPA. And here are some of the highlights to support our recommendation. As mentioned, for year one, we have an annual subscription of $19,255, along with a one-time implementation cost of $39,800, and followed by a $32,254 annual subscription cost for years 2 and 3. This does include a 2 business user license, along with a 10 employee user pack. One of the main reasons that we also believe Sage Intact is the best option for OPA is that they're really school-focused software, as well as their software is developed by accountants, specifically Clifton Larson Allen, which just adds another layer of security for OPA and for our assets. They'll be providing training, support, data import, implementation timeline with a go live target date of February 2022. And I would also like to note that there is no change with our payroll system, and we are keeping Paylocity during this transition. In essence, after each payroll, a CSV file will be produced and imported into Sage Intact. So are there any questions?
This is super helpful. Thank you, Rosa.
Great, thank you. And if I may, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Mr. David Barley for his support and time during this process. So thank you, Mr. Barley.
you.
Well, okay. So may I have a motion, please, to approve action item J?
I'll make the motion to approve action item J.
Director Kagu, thank you. And second,
I'll second.
Director Agarwal, thank you for that. Any questions or comments from the board?
Just a quick comment. I think this is I mean, just to reiterate Member Smith's comment from earlier, I was trying to connect this, but Mr. Bali, you mentioned this as well, that this is, we need this because we're moving EdTech services internal, right? And so to reiterate what Director Smith said last time, so completely understand. I wasn't sure, it didn't click in my head until you told me, so thank you for that. I assume that, I mean, this is a big deal, right? This is a big deal because this is touching our financial systems. And so I assume like our auditors and so on are all on board with the risk plan and how they're going to keep the continuity, and assume that the board finance committee is going to do oversight on, because this is a huge deal, right? This is a massive deal, moving financials from one system to another. February seems like pretty aggressive, but I'm sure you guys know what you're doing. But I just want to make sure that the auditors, whoever our auditors are, they've sort of signed up on your transition plan.
We feel very confident based on all the partners who've been involved, and timeline as well, we believe is manageable, barring any complications. But generally, OPA is not complex compared to other businesses and organizations that use the software. And with Ms. Palomino at the helm, as well as other staff members contributing and supporting, I think we'll be in good shape and come out on the other side. I've done a lot, and Ms. Palomino has done transitions like this before. So we feel that our skills will come to bear and we'll be able to get this over the line.
And David, I mean, software implementation, right? Like Paul said, kind of a big deal. I noticed that we looked at OCDE and using them for this. Is there any one thing or any group of things that kept us from doing that? I know from an oversight point of view, I feel like that's kind of the penultimate level of integration. But at the same time, obviously, there's some things that, you know, we're going to give up. Yeah, you know, so what are some of those things?
Ms. Palomino, our expert on this, will share some comments.
So because we are a charter school and we have an authorizer, we don't have that direct contact with OCDE per se. And coming from my previous district with the OCDE financial system. So other charter schools also are not kind of linked to the financial system with OCDE because of that second level of authorization. You know, us with Saddleback Valley being, even though it's OCDE, and SOC being CAPO unified, you know, it kind of adds another layer to it. So there's no direct connection because we're not, you know, tied directly. So we kind of have that that middleman per se as a charter school.
And what are other charter schools doing to handle these same functions in-house? What are they doing?
Some of them use Sage Intacct as well, and some other charter schools use other financial software that were listed there, like NetSuite, or they also have a back office provider. So there's different things that different charter schools are doing out there.
Mm-hmm. And did you talk to any of those?
I'm pleased to share that
Yes.
we did.
Okay.
And not only ones that were recommended by the software providers themselves, because
they're going to give you the
already
pitches,
supportive,
right?
exactly. But also others through our network to really get to the heart of it. So ones that were not recommended, but we found and got some really good background on.
Okay. And then I don't want to ask too many questions, but the last is implementation. I've been unfortunately front and center to see lots of failed software implementations, Salesforce and things like that, where companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on software that 36 months later, they're scrapping it because it's just, you know, the implementation's difficult. And so I'm happy to hear that we're looking at, you know, this. And I just want to be sure everybody has it front of mind that this isn't like installing Microsoft Office and using Word. You know, there's a fair amount of customization that goes, and I wonder if even ed tech can give us some help on, you know, what they can push data into more seamlessly, because this isn't I want to remind everybody, this isn't simply a transition from ed tech to this new application, right? So we've had a couple of backend service providers over the past 8-10 years. And so we still will get called upon to provide that data from two, you know, backend service providers
right.
ago. And
That's
it sure
right.
would be nice to get some of that at least aggregated data in there as well, to the extent that that's possible. Anyway, it's getting late. I don't want to go on and on about it, but sounds
We
like
have been working with ed tech through the process
Uh-huh.
to allow us to be able to have that access to the box program and to NetSuite, and make sure that they are pulling all of the information out of NetSuite so that we can easily or as easy as possible be able to have all of that, to be able to upload into Sage and keep all of our data intact and keep everything seamless. And then we'll still have access to that box system that still holds all of our financials for ed tech through the end of the year and the audit, so that we can actually still go back into that system if we have to find any other pieces, just in case something didn't transfer over.
Awesome. And I'd even be interested to hear, you know, if there's a fee, some small fee to keep it available for another year, just simply we've got so many restricted funds and all those kinds of things that we might be called upon to go back and answer for later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right now the government's kind of seems like it's in the give, you know, mode, which tells me in 3 years they're going to be in the what were you doing? What were you thinking? What did you spend it on? Anyway.
And luckily, I mean, we've had pretty good success, even with XED, who was our previous back office provider, being able to call them if we need any additional information. And, you know, the same with ed tech. So we've had pretty good luck at being able to, you know, keep those relationships and be able to go back and get anything that we need. We still reach out to XED every now and then, even though it's been 4 years, to get pieces of information if we need them. So luckily we haven't had any issues in that area.
Yeah, they've been very good partners. That's a good example. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So we have a motion and a second. We've asked lots of questions. This is $120,000, right? This is a big deal, I think, to quote Paul. This is a big deal. And so it's you know, Rosa, thank you very much for a great presentation. Obviously, you guys looked into this carefully, and that gives me, you know, the confidence to feel good about moving forward with this. So we'll, any questions or comments from the board additionally before we move to a vote? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. So Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kagu? I think that was a super quick aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Travis?
Aye.
Okay, looks like we're moving to Sage Intact Financial Software. Item K, approved material revision to OPA Saddleback Valley Charter petition to align our lottery preferences between the two schools, build continuity, and better align our OPA SV demographics to the surrounding neighborhood. OPA is submitting a material revision to its charter petition to include students residing in the former Aliso Elementary School attendance boundaries to the lottery preference because this is a change to the admission preferences, policies, or procedures. OPA have the material revision approved by the Orange County Board of Education before implementing the changes. Another big deal. Somebody going to talk about this?
Since I'm still awake, I'll talk about it.
So you're
we-
using pass out as the measure for whether you're still participating or not. I'm still vertical, so I'm still presenting.
Sure,
Okay, good.
I'm still awake. So we did this 2 years ago in SOC. We really want to make our schools more neighborhood schools. So, we do know that we have kids coming from all over the place, but we are part of a neighborhood community. And so after we got our SOC charter renewed for 5 years, they don't usually recommend that you do these types of things during the charter renewal process because then you have to do a material revision at the same time as you're doing the charter renewal. And so in order to have the best opportunity to get the longest renewal possible, it's usually recommended that you do these material revisions afterwards. So now that we have our 7-year renewal with OCDE, to better align our schools within the community and provide those opportunities for our students who live around the school to be able to benefit from coming to OPA. We're asking that the board approve this revision, or asking that the Orange County Board of Education approve this revision so that we can have alignment between our two schools, but also provide those opportunities for students who may live, almost backed up to the school. It'll also help to alleviate some of our traffic issues. And it really helps us to build that goodwill and community within the neighborhoods where our students are located. It was a big win for SOC, so we would like to do that for SV as well.
All right. So may I have a motion, please, to approve the material revision to Saddleback Valley Charter petition?
I'll make the motion to approve. Okay, I'll second it.
This is we gotta play back the cameras on this. Anybody want to give it to somebody?
Go ahead, Paul.
All right, Paul, thank you for the motion. Delight, thank you for the second. Any comments or questions from the board?
I have a couple. So Amy, what does that mean for the lottery purposes? Does that mean that they get extra tickets? Does that mean that they're just automatically in? What does that mean for that?
So the way that we have the lottery broken down right now, it would be for staff members, students, and then siblings. And then after that, right now is just all of Saddleback Valley Unified gets that next preference. So these students are still part of Saddleback Valley Unified. It would just give them a preference above just your general Saddleback Valley Unified students. So if you lived in the former Aliso attendance boundaries, you would basically get that preference over a student who lived in the Lake Forest attendance boundaries. So it doesn't really change the number of in-district students we have. It would just sort of change the way that the makeup of those in-district students were to give that first priority to those students who live within the Aliso boundaries, just like we do with our with Capo and our SOC students.
Okay, so I guess so that means they're automatically in if they live in the boundaries. Is that what that means?
They're automatically in if we have space and the lottery gets down to that preference level.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So first, say we have 5 spots open in 2nd grade. And we have one student whose family member lives in, who works at OPA. So that first spot would be given to that sibling or that student of the staff member. Then say there's 2 siblings that they would get the next 2 slots. And then the following 2 slots, I can add, the following 2 slots, if there was someone in the Barcelona boundaries, or not sorry, I'm thinking Aliso boundaries, they would get that next spot. and then, and then if there was somebody who was in the general SVUSD boundaries, they would get that final slot. But if there aren't enough open spaces, then that doesn't guarantee them a spot in there. It only guarantees them priority over someone who is in a lower priority level.
And how do you guys communicate that out to our neighborhood? I mean, how do they know that?
So when we did it for SOC, we did some communication out with the neighborhood with, I think we did flyers, and we also talked to their local neighborhood group, just to let parents know that was now an ability for them. So we would do a similar thing for the Saddleback Valley.
And part of this location, it is a homeowners association. Some of the homes are and some are not. So there'll be strategies here.
Thank you.
So if approved, we'll be submitting that prior to the Orange County Board of Education meeting on November 3rd. We present it to Orange County Board of Education, and then they have 60 days to deliberate, the same as when we were doing the renewal. And then they would give us their decision after those 60 days.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments from the board? We're getting close here. Okay. Hearing none, we'll move into a roll call vote then. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kagu?
Aye.
Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Travis?
Aye.
All right. Item K passes unanimously. Item L, approve utilizing teleconferencing for the November 18, 2021 OPA Board of Directors meeting per Government Code Section 54953E. Local agencies can continue to meet via teleconference during the state of emergency proclaimed by the governor, in which 1, state or local health officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, or 2, the legislative body has determined or is meeting to determine by majority vote that the meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of the attendees. Because of the ongoing health risk created by COVID-19 pandemic, it is recommended that the board of directors continue to hold meetings via teleconference for the next 30 days, which includes the November 18th, 2021 OPA Board of Directors meeting. It is recommended that the board of directors approve action item L. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve action item L.
Thank you, Director Kagu. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Agarwal. Any questions or comments from the board about this? Hearing none, roll call vote. Director Agarwal?
Aye.
Director Jackson, aye. Director Kagu?
Aye.
Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Travis?
Aye.
Okay, L approved unanimously. Committee discussions. We have Academic Outcomes Committee.
So I'll be doing a very quick, brief update on what our Academic Outcomes Committee is working on. Both Member Agarwal and Member Smith are both helping to lead this committee. So please jump in at any time and I will share my screen. So our Academic Outcome Committee has been meeting regularly. What we are working on is developing a champion profile. It's similar to a graduate profile, but since we are a K-8 organization, we are calling it our champion profile. And what this profile will define is the competencies and skills that our OPA champion should have when they leave OPA and move on to high school. So you can see in the bullets that this profile is defining the core competencies and skills that we believe our students, our champions, should possess, and then describes what these competencies look like in different stages. So if a student is emerging in a competency, progressing, or excelling, so there's a little bit of a student rubric built in, as well as how those competencies are incorporated in our instruction and what they look like in the classroom. So the 6 competencies that we are looking at as part of our champion profile are critical thinking, communication, character, creativity, collaboration, and civic engagement / world readiness. Here's our timeline. I am very pleased to say that we are on track with our timeline. So in June 2021, we met and we started our initial planning. In July, there were some surveys, other feedback, and we determined those 6 competencies that you saw on the previous slide. In August, we looked at defining those competencies, so what they really mean or what they look like in practice. In September, we started to define progress indicators. How will we know when our champions reach those competencies, and how will we measure that? We were looking at things like even perhaps a capstone project where students can, over the years, demonstrate their success in those 6 areas. This October, we were working on putting together a format for the document. We updated the indicators and also started to really build out what those competencies look like in practice in the classrooms. In November, we hope to have our first draft of the champion profile complete. We will then submit it to Lighthouse Graphics, which is our company we've been using for branding, and they're going to help us with some of the graphics and maybe even what the document itself would look like. In December, we will bring that draft for board input. And then in January, we hope to have the graduate profile board approved. That was short and sweet. I don't know if Member Agrawal or Member Smith would like to add anything, but it's been a great process, in my opinion.
I have no additional comments. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say really quickly, I agree. The process has been great. I really appreciate you, Dr. Henry, and all you've done to integrate the professional learning you do with the teachers to get feedback from them in this process, because we wanted to be as inclusive as possible. So that's just one way that's happened. The other part, we're in the thick of it of just trying to balance being super comprehensive as well as not like having everything in the kitchen sink in this where it's not really usable and it ends up on a shelf. So we're trying to strike that balance now with all of the great information and content. So I'm excited to present the next iteration of everything to everyone soon.
I think this is really, really awesome. I mean, the 6C construct, very simple for people to understand. You guys have captured the essence of it. I'm really excited that we can take this construct and tie it to the outcomes work that we're doing so that, there's convergence. As you guys converge in January, we could also converge. So really nice work, and thank you for sharing. Really, really nice.
So tell me more about this firm that we're using. You said we're using a firm to help us.
So Lighthouse Graphics is who we've been using. We looked at a couple of different marketing firms, and Lighthouse Graphics is who we're using for some of our kind of logo design, and they're working right now actually on doing some PowerPoint presentations so that we have some uniformity between all of our PowerPoints, our letterhead, our business cards. I know that's for you, Paul. So we thought that as part of this process of creating the graduate profile, we could utilize them to make some icons for each one of the 6 C's. It was something that we kind of talked about in the committee at the very beginning to make things really visual, as well as just creating a document that is really visually appealing and kind of makes sense and puts everything together in a really concise way for people to make it easily accessible to all of our stakeholders. So, so we've, like I said, we've been utilizing them for some other things, and and they've done some good work. So we're hoping to utilize them as well for this project.
So they're kind of a pay by the hour. Do they do a proposal for different things? How do they work?
Yeah, they'll usually give us a proposal for different pieces of the project. Luckily, they've been super reasonable in their pricing.
Okay.
So they are. Once we have sort of a rough draft of this, then we'll take it to them to give us a proposal on how much it would be for them to work on some of those icons and the graphic pieces of the document.
Okay, cool.
Just for clarity's sake, this committee, we didn't select them. My ask was that whatever we end up with, it aligns with all the other marketing materials being produced. And so that's why it's also going through them.
Yeah, we want everything to have kind of a uniform look and feel to it, just to make it easier for everyone and make everything have a little bit more consistency.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I just wanted to let them know that the finance committee's watching them.
Yes, and they luckily are very reasonable in their.
Cool. Okay, great. So thank you very much for that. Anybody else have any questions for the Academic Outcomes Committee? Okay, going once, going twice. All right, moving on. Community input on non-agendized items. The public may comment on items not listed on the agenda that are within the legal purview of the Board of Directors. Do we have any input on non-agendized items?
No, there's no comment from the public.
Okay, thank you for that. Adjournment. It is recommended that the board adjourn the regular meeting of the Oxford Preparatory Academy Board of Directors on October 21, 2021. Anybody presenting on this?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
I've got a
Delight.
baby that needs me to get going.
Got it. Director Travis, thank you. Second, please.
Second.
Director Kagu, thank you so much. Roll call. Our Director Agarwal.
Aye.
Director Jackson says aye. Director Kagu.
Aye.
Director Smith.
Aye.
I'm going to guess Director Travis is on board, but Director Travis?
Aye.
All right. Meeting adjourned at 9:40 p.m. Marathon. Amy, thank you so much for hanging in.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.